GA5 technically. Last week we had a GA4.5. It was a non-binding event because we didn't have quorum. Because people were at the Reframe Festival, people were at a bunch of other things. So thank you everybody for coming. This is awesome that this has been ongoing, and I'd just like to say that if this was a camp, technically this would be day 3. Something to keep in mind. So I was thinking about something last night, and I just wanted to talk, just have a quick 30-second thing where we kind of identify why we're all here for a second, and just in your head for a second, think of one cause that is your passion and the reason that brought you into a movement or a piece of activism. And say that to yourself. It could be labor, indigenous, or environmental, or health, or poverty, or education, or democratic, or economic reform, or any of that, anything. So just think about that for a second and say it to yourself. And then put your hand up for a second if that has to do in some way with money or power or anything else being valued more than a human being or the earth. Welcome to Occupied Facebook. So, I'd just like to start. We always start by identifying that we are on Anishinaabe traditional land, and we need to keep the perspective of colonialism within our discussion. We'd also need to recognize all the different perspectives and all the different causes that made people raise their hands, and we need to keep that perspective aware of other people's perspective. And we'd also like to try to make a safe space. Because this is a politicized event, and some people don't feel comfortable, and this may have been a barrier, in fact, for lots of people coming today and participating in this General Assembly. And so, in creating a safe space, trying not to use attacking language when we're discussing proposals and actions people want to take, and also being aware of all the different isms that have been created in our society to separate us. So things like classism, sexism, racism, ageism, based on ability, based on all sorts of different isms that have been created to separate us. So let's work on taking those down and not using language that supports them. So this is GA5. Did I miss something?
I guess it's sort of like, as to whether this is like completely Anishinaabe territory is like kind of some people from Haudenosaunee don't agree with that like some that I know personally, but from what I understand, the land claim is still in the air, but it was actually like a meeting place for both peoples. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there. And the other thing too is like the language of a safe space. Like all spaces are safe until they're not. So like maybe I don't know if there's like this is my first GA, so I'd be interested in hearing more about like accountability rather than like, you know, the organization of a safe space.
I appreciate that. So encouraging the maintenance of the safe space, possibly. And I would love to talk to you more about, because I think there's actually 5 groups around that overlap on Peterborough. James Wilkes was telling me about that, because that's definitely something I don't know about. So Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee. Okay, so I know Anishinaabe is Ojibwe. What's Haudenosaunee?
Haudenosaunee is the non-colonized word for Iroquois people, so that's the Confederacy of the Six Nations. Hi, Rochelle.
Very cool.
Hi, Ryan.
All right, thank you very much. Michelle's got a point.
I just wanted to suggest that one of the roles that we haven't really brought into things, but that is often used when we use this kind of consensus model that we've been using, is something called a vibes watcher, a mood minder, etc. And given the fact that we do plan to talk about perhaps some more contentious things today, I would like to propose that someone who is feeling fairly neutral or feels at least that they could kind of pay really close attention to whether or not the vibes kind of do go into a more difficult or attacking place. And the primary role of that person would be to interject to the facilitator that in fact we do need to take a moment, to take a pause, and to reconnect to the ground rules. So I would propose that today we evoke a mood minder, vibes watcher, and ask the group for a volunteer.
So we take a temperature check on that, whether you can talk about that as well. So does anybody want to nominate themselves to be a vibe minder?
What's a vibe binder?
Somebody who makes sure that we're staying away from attacking language. We've got chairs around the circle. Oh, okay. Good point. We'll talk about that.
Hey, Harvey.
I want to talk about it.
No, I just want to get in the hairs on the
Okay, so good point. We're gonna go through the way General Assembly. I keep forgetting I have to introduce this. The way the General Assembly works is it's based on the consensus circle model, and it's reimagining the typical hierarchical pyramid scheme of power within a group, and it's almost more of an inverted cone. And so this General Assembly and the community of occupied Peterborough represents the authority in the decision-making process. And this is it's the idea that it's a circle. It represents everybody, and through consensus we come up with what our shared action will be. As such, if everybody gets a chance to speak and people don't get interrupted, and so we use a lot of signals to identify agreement or disagreement or points of information or clarification, so how we interact with one another. So I'll go through those quickly. When we do temperature checks or check for consensus or while somebody's talking, to indicate agreement is done with a hand signal towards the ceiling. And then to indicate unsure, if you're unsure or you're neutral about it, this doesn't mean you're abstaining. It means that you're on the fence. Is a hand signal towards in front of you, twinkling fingers towards in front of you. And to indicate disagreement, that you just indicate disagreements or that you don't support it is to hand signals towards the ground. And in the consensus model, these are all very important, and we don't want people to feel like they need to be part of a herd mentality, because this is the tool in which we're creating a better society. So please use them. Another symbol, which is very important to the consensus model, is hands crossed. And dissent in the consensus model is actually encouraged. We don't want people to feel like this is this is going to exclude you or anything. We want people to notify us when they need to block something, because this symbol represents that you think the current action is actually going against the foundational principles of what Occupy Peterborough means. So I can't really think of an example off the top of my head, but it may be like a violent action. Or, sorry, that's a contentious word. You think slavery. Thank you. So I should not go with slavery. So I'm going to block this, and then you explain why, and that dissent is encouraged because it brings us back on track and actually lets us talk about the premise or the foundation of the action. So those are indicative of your position or your stance on an issue. But then there's also a few more administrative hand signals, and one of them is an eye. And so it's a point of information. And so this is if you have something to add to, like some fact or some data or some news to add to the conversation which you think matters. For example, the date for that rally is actually on Saturday, not the Sunday. It's an important piece of information that might change things. Another one is a clarification, and that's a C. And this lets us know that you have a question. That you don't think things were explained clearly, you don't have enough information to make up your mind, and you'd like to clarify something. Another symbol, which has to do with the video camera, is all the GAs get posted online on our YouTube account, and it's 2 hands in front of your face. And so what that indicates is I don't want to be videotaped, and so Brian will do everything he can to not include you in the video camera. Is there any other symbols I missed? Oh, good one. This one's very important. We're on a timeline. And this indicates, it has to be used with compassion and gentleness, especially within the circle model. Because there's kind of how often do you sit in a room and everybody wants to listen to you? You can kind of get into the moment and not be aware that your point's been made. And so this symbol indicates that we've heard you, your point's been made, and so we are on a time time schedules, so move it along. And it's not to be taken offensively, it's to be taken, oh, I've been heard. Alright? And this is another thank you, I missed a few. This is a point of process. And so this is important because I'm acting as a facilitator, but we are all the facilitators in this group. And so a point of process indicates that there's a better way to be moving forward, or we've kind of fallen off track in our process today at the General Assembly. So let's get back on track, or let's do this in a more effective way. So have a nice day. Is there anything else I've missed? Okay. So I propose then that we have 2-minute takers. Thank you very much for doing that. So I propose that our typical format for an assembly is we make announcements, so Occupy-related news, updates, reports, pretty much, from anybody in the General Assembly. And then we move to the proposal stage, where committees and individuals bring forward proposals that they have prepared to the General Assembly to be accepted or ratified so that they can move forward with them. Then we move into the consensus building stage, where after the minute takers and myself have made the list of the proposals and they've been and the GA has been informed, we move into consensus making and we do what's been called a temperature check on the first proposal. And that indicates how much time possibly we need to discuss it, depending on how much disagreement or agreements supporting it. And then we're going to allot it an amount of time, maybe 10 or 15 minutes, depending on how much, where it seems to be going. And then we work on building consensus around that proposal. The final piece is we plan our next GA. We make non-Occupy related announcements and share news. And then we break up into committees and we move forward on them. How do people feel about this format? Yeah. Point of process.
We made a decision 2 GAs ago that we would have a more specific focus today than sort of the broad parameters of the way that we normally meet. And so I just wanted to, I guess, sort of seek clarification and ask what it is we're going to look at in our proposal phase, if that is just kind of open to whatever kind of proposal, or if we are going to hold a more defined conversation today. So I'm just questioning what it is we're going to.
I feel like we decided, I think we had consensus on that we should discuss this and get this clarified first and passed, and or amended, whatever. That would be our first thing.
Yeah, because this is something. Oh yeah, point of information. This is something that came up 2 GAs ago, but we didn't get enough time to ratify it, and Direct Action was hoping to move on this. So I would propose that we do this first in our proposals, and then move, and we'll seek consensus on this piece, because this has been tabled, and then we'll move into the other proposals. Does that seem fair?